Maya, have you lost your damn mind? Alan's voice shattered the silence like glass on marble. His leather shoes scraped against the stone path as he stopped dead in his tracks. The briefcase he held slipped from his fingers and thudded against the ground, ignored. Water sprayed wildly across the grass. Two little boys, Jaden and Ryan, crawled through mud, soaked from head to toe. Standing over them was Maya. Her grip on the garden hose trembled, face tight, with something twisted between frustration and heartbreak. But none of that mattered, because Jaden, shivering in the mess, looked up with tear-filled eyes and whispered words that didn't just cut through Alan's rage, they obliterated it. "Please don't hurt Mommy again, Daddy." The wind seemed to stop. The sun overhead burned too bright. Alan's breath caught somewhere between disbelief and something deeper. Did he just say, Mommy? Not Maid, not Maya. Mommy. 6 hours earlier, the day had started with a hard slam of a boardroom door and a migraine that wouldn't quit. The markets were crashing. A competitor leaked something damaging. The press was circling like vultures. Alan had barked at his assistant, thrown his phone across the room, spent 20 minutes staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows of his downtown office, wondering when the empire he built stopped feeling like home. He wasn't supposed to leave the office early, but nothing in him wanted to stay, not in that suit, not in that glass tower, not with people who smiled in his face and stole behind his back. He didn't even tell the driver where to go. The Maybach pulled up to Ellison Estate out of habit. The house stood silent, pristine, guarded by gates taller than most buildings. Everything trimmed, perfect, immaculate, except for the chaos he found out back. Maya had barely slept. Her alarm hadn't gone off. The nanny called in sick. The gardener was 2 days late, and the kids had been screaming since breakfast. Jaden spilled grape juice across the counter. Ryan ran through the hallway with muddy shoes. She cleaned, apologized, redirected again and again and again, until her patience wore thin. When she found them digging through the flower bed, she didn't yell. She didn't grab them. She just grabbed the hose. Her hands shook as she turned it on, not to punish but to stop herself from breaking. Those flowers weren't just decoration. They were the only thing left of a life she wasn't allowed to speak of. The kids giggled at first, squealing, slipping, crawling. They didn't understand. But Maya did. Her eyes burned as she sprayed them, as if washing the past off their skin, off hers. Then everything stopped when she heard her name, not gently, not with curiosity, but like a gunshot. "Maya, have you lost your damn mind?" She froze. The hose dropped to the grass. Jaden whimpered. Ryan staggered to his feet. Alan stood stiff, breath ragged, suit crisp, expression unreadable, until Jaden said the words that made the world crack open. "Please don't hurt Mommy again, Daddy." Alan's voice dried in his throat. He blinked, swallowed, took one step forward, then another. Jaden clung to Maya's leg. Ryan crawled behind her. They weren't scared of her. They were afraid for her. The realization hit like a brick to the chest. Alan stared at Maya. She stared back, arms at her sides, no apology in her posture, just pain. Not the kind that comes from guilt, the kind that comes from holding in the truth for far too long. He had spent months walking past this woman, handing off tasks, signing checks, never asking who she really was. But the boys knew. They hadn't been calling her Mommy for fun. They meant it. Every moment she stayed late, every time she kissed their foreheads when no one looked, every song she hummed under her breath, every soft good night after the lights were out, they remembered, and so did she. Alan opened his mouth to speak. Nothing came out. His hands curled at his sides. He turned toward Jaden. "What did you just say, son?" Jaden looked up, eyes red, cheeks wet. He didn't flinch. "She's Mommy. You said she went away, but she didn't. She's right here." Alan's jaw clenched. His chest rose and fell in short bursts. His world, once neatly packaged in contracts and meetings, had just shattered in his own backyard. And Maya still hadn't said a word. She didn't need to. The truth was standing 2 feet in front of him, covered in dirt, hugging her legs like they'd never let go again. The silence between them stretched into something suffocating. Alan's eyes didn't blink. Maya didn't look away. Jayden pressed his face into her hip. Ryan gripped the edge of her uniform like it was the only thing keeping him steady. Alan finally stepped closer, each movement deliberate, like he was walking through a dream he hadn't asked for. "You've got 3 seconds to explain what the hell is going on." Maya didn't flinch. "Say something," he snapped. Still, she said nothing. "Is this a game to you? You think this is funny? You're the maid, Maya. The damn housekeeper, not their mother." And there it was, that word, spoken like a verdict. Maya's lips parted, her voice steady but soft. "You don't get to decide that." Alan took a sharp breath. His hand trembled slightly at his side. He didn't like feeling out of control, especially not here, not in his house, not with someone like her. "You've been feeding them lies? Filling their heads with, what? Some fantasy where you're their mom? That's not just dangerous, it's—" "I never told them anything," Maya cut in. Her voice was low, calm, almost too calm. "They remembered. You never asked why." Jayden looked up at Alan then, eyes full of confusion, sadness, and something deeper. Something Alan wasn't ready to name. "You said she was gone," Jayden whispered. "But she smells like the same soap from the old apartment. She sings the same song. She remembers which twin had the birthmark behind his ear. She makes our pancakes the way Mum did." Ryan's small voice broke in, quieter. "We were little, but not dumb." Alan turned away. His hands covered his face for a second like he could block out the words if he just pressed hard enough. He had answers. At least, he used to. A judge had signed the papers. An agreement had been made. A past had been buried, rewritten, locked in a vault no one was supposed to open. But now it was spilling out in front of his kids. He spun back toward Maya, voice cracking. "Why now? Why come back like this?" Maya blinked slowly, her throat tightening. "Because when I came to this house, I didn't come for them. I came for a job. I came to survive. I didn't plan on staying. I didn't plan on remembering." She knelt, one hand resting gently on Jayden's back, the other wiping dirt from Ryan's cheek. "But they remembered me, and I couldn't ignore that anymore." Alan stared down at the 3 of them, a picture that looked nothing like the life he'd built, but somehow felt more real than anything he'd touched in years. You know, if you're still watching this and feeling anything right now, maybe even a lump in your throat or a sting behind your eyes, then pause and ask yourself something. How many stories like this have you watched and forgotten to subscribe? You hear voices like Maya's, you feel truth in Jayden's cry, and you stay, because it feels like something you've lived through too. If that's true, don't just watch and scroll past. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me, for the stories like this that deserve to be told. Alan shook his head like he was waking from a trance. "You lost custody," he muttered. "You disappeared. You left." Maya stood slowly, voice sharper now. "I didn't disappear. I was erased, and you let them erase me." His jaw tensed. "You were unstable, grieving. They said what you needed them to say. I was a mother in mourning, and you were a man with power. Tell me, Alan, who do you think they were going to listen to?" He opened his mouth, closed it, looked down at the boys again. Jayden's hand was now gripping Maya's tightly. Ryan's head rested against her arm. They didn't look confused. They looked safe. "What do you want from me?" Alan finally asked, voice hoarse. "Nothing," Maya replied. "Not your money, not your pity, just the truth. For them." Alan took a step back. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves in the trees above them. For a second, the estate didn't feel like his. It felt like a place full of ghosts. "You should have told me," he said quietly. "You wouldn't have heard me," Maya answered. Inside the house, the clock chimed once. Jayden sniffled. Ryan tugged at Maya's sleeve. "Can we go inside, Mummy?" he asked, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Maya looked at Alan, waiting. She wouldn't move without permission. He nodded, slowly, as if releasing a part of himself he'd been holding for too long. The 3 of them walked past him. Alan stood still, arms heavy, heart heavier. Jaden paused as he passed his father. "She never stopped loving us," he said. "But did you?" Alan couldn't answer, because he wasn't sure anymore. The soft echo of bare feet on polished hardwood was the only sound inside the Ellison estate. Maya stood frozen near the threshold of the boys' room, her hand resting lightly on the doorframe. Inside, Jaden and Ryan were curled up in their beds, still damp-haired from their impromptu hosing, wrapped in blankets, cheeks flushed with exhaustion. She could still hear Jaden's voice in her head. "Please don't hurt Mommy again." The words echoed louder than Alan's scream. She reached down, picked up Ryan's sock from the floor, and pressed it to her chest like it could somehow hold her together. She hadn't meant for this to happen. She never wanted to rip open old wounds, especially not theirs. Behind her, Alan stood in the hallway, arms crossed tightly, jaw ticking. "This can't happen again," he said. His tone was colder than before. Controlled, like he'd found his footing again. "You're emotionally compromised. Whatever history you had with them, it's over. You're here to work. That's it." Maya turned to face him. "You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you, because if they keep calling me Mommy, you'll have to admit what you did." Alan's eyes narrowed. "I did what I had to. You were grieving, Maya. You weren't stable." "I was grieving because I was their mother, Alan, not just in spirit, not metaphorically, not through bedtime stories or hugs. I brought them into this world, and you used your money to take them out of mine." He stepped closer, voice sharp. "Don't rewrite history just because it hurts now." "I'm not rewriting anything," she said quietly. "I'm the only one remembering it right." The silence between them buzzed with bitterness. Alan ran a hand through his hair and turned away as if the sight of her was suddenly unbearable. "I should fire you right now." She didn't react, just folded the small sock and set it on the dresser. "Then do it." He looked over his shoulder. "What?" "If you're so sure I'm the problem, send me away, but this time do it to their faces." She walked past him, out of the room, and disappeared down the hall. Downstairs, the living room still smelled like lemon polish. Maya sat on the edge of the couch, back straight, hands clasped, staring at the floor like it might give her the answers her heart no longer could. The kids were upstairs, asleep, hopefully, or at least pretending. She didn't hear Alan come down, but suddenly he was in the doorway, drink in hand, sleeves rolled up, the stiffness in his shoulders betraying the calm he was pretending to wear. "Why didn't you leave when you saw them, remember?" he asked. She looked up at him. "Because I wanted to believe it didn't matter." "But it does." "Of course it does." He paced slowly, glass spinning between his fingers. "I don't know what you want from me." "I don't want anything." "Then why are you still here?" "Because they begged me to stay." Alan stopped. That hit harder than he expected. "What do you want me to do? Undo it? Take back the court order? Go back in time and not listen to a dozen lawyers telling me you weren't fit to raise them?" Maya's voice broke now. "No, I just want you to admit that maybe they were wrong." Alan set the glass down too hard. It cracked. He didn't notice. "You think this doesn't kill me too?" he asked. "You think I don't lie awake wondering what I destroyed in trying to protect them?" "Then stop pretending you're not human," she whispered, "and stop pretending you don't still love them like a mother." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I never stopped." Upstairs, Jaden stirred. Ryan was already sitting up, quietly sneaking toward the door. He'd learned long ago how to move through the house without being heard, how to listen without interrupting. Jaden followed. They sat at the top of the stairs, knees tucked to their chests, eyes wide. They heard everything. They always did. Back downstairs, Alan dropped into the leather armchair across from Maya like gravity was suddenly heavier. "We can't go back," he said, "I know." "So what happens now?" She looked at him for a long moment. "That's your choice, Alan, but whatever you decide, they've already made theirs. And if you're still here, if you've been pulled into this mess of pain and truth, watching a broken family try to put themselves back together, then don't pretend it didn't touch you, because if it did, and I know it did." The least you can do is subscribe. You've made it this far, that means you care. And people who care? They stick around for the ending. In the quiet that followed, Alan rose and left the room. Maya stared at the empty hallway. The house was massive, cold and quiet again, but upstairs, on the landing where the boys had been listening, a pair of small socks lay side by side, just like the boys used to sit before they were taken away. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window in the small quarters tucked away near the west wing of the estate, wrapped in a blanket, staring out at the garden she once tended like a secret. The moonlight fell across the flower bed, now dug up, trampled, muddy. She should have packed, should have written a resignation letter, should have slipped out before the sun rose. But her legs wouldn't move. Her chest felt too heavy. She hadn't meant to stay. Not after what was said. Not after what was remembered. Down the hall, 2 rooms over, Alan sat on the edge of his bed with his laptop open, screen black. His mind wasn't in spreadsheets or market reports. It was with 2 little boys upstairs and a woman downstairs who had just told him the one truth he couldn't unhear. And somehow he believed them, but believing it didn't make it easier. The next morning came with tension clinging to the air like fog. Alan walked into the kitchen to find Maya already there, pouring cereal, cutting fruit, moving through the routine like nothing had happened. But she didn't hum like she usually did. She didn't make eye contact. Jaden was half asleep at the counter, head on one arm, spoon dangling from the other. Ryan was stacking strawberries into a tower. "Good morning," Alan muttered. No one replied. Maya placed 2 bowls in front of the twins. She turned to leave. Jaden caught her wrist. "Aren't you eating with us?" She hesitated. Alan glanced at them, then at her. "Stay." Her brows lifted, surprised. "You sure?" He nodded once. It wasn't warm, but it was something. By noon, the estate was in disarray. The new nanny, the one Alan had hired on short notice when Maya was first brought in, quit via text. No warning, no explanation. A broken pipe in the upstairs guest room meant water damage. Contractors were coming and needed someone home, and the boys refused to go anywhere without Maya. It wasn't spoken, it was just understood. Wherever she moved, they followed, like shadows. Alan tried to separate them, offered them screen time, promised a trip to the ice cream shop, even mentioned a puppy. None of it worked. They clung to her like she was air. By evening it was clear. Maya couldn't leave. Not yet. Alan stood outside her room, arms folded. The boys need structure. They've had too much change. She didn't open the door, just spoke through it. "I agree. If you stay, it has to be temporary, until I figure something out." "Understood." He shifted his weight. "And boundaries. This is still my house." "Then stop walking up and down outside my door like you're lost in it." The door creaked open. She stood there, expression unreadable. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "Then don't." They stared at each other. "I can sleep on the pull-out sofa," she added, "just until things are clearer." Alan exhaled slowly. "Fine. Fine." The next few days passed like a fragile truce. Meals were eaten in near silence, except for the boys, who filled the gaps with questions no one wanted to answer. Did Mommy really leave because she didn't love us? Why did no one tell us she was still alive? Why don't we all just live together? Maya would smile faintly. Alan would change the subject. But one night, as thunder rolled faintly in the distance, Jaden crawled into Maya's lap and whispered something she hadn't expected to hear. "If you leave again, I'll forget how your voice sounds." She swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm not going anywhere, baby." Alan, standing just outside the doorway, heard every word. He leaned his head against the wall, eyes closed. He remembered the day the custody papers were finalized. How clinical it all felt. Lawyers, coffee, no emotion, no noise, just signatures and silence. He'd told himself he was doing what was best. Now that lie was a splinter under his skin. The following morning, the boys refused their breakfast unless Maya fed them. She laughed softly, the first real laugh in days, and obliged. Alan watched from the other end of the table, something in his chest loosening, then tightening again. He rose from his seat, pushing back his chair a little too hard. "We can't keep doing this." Maya glanced at him. "Doing what?" "Living like none of this happened. Like it's normal." She stood, motioned to the twins. "Ask them if it feels normal. Because right now this is the most peace they've had in years." Alan met her eyes. "And what happens when you leave again?" Maya shook her head slowly. "I won't." He blinked. "What?" "I said I won't leave again. Not until they understand everything. And not until you do, too." That night, Maya sat beside Ryan's bed, stroking his hair until he drifted to sleep. Jaden, in the next bed, was already dreaming. Alan watched from the hallway, unseen. For the first time in years, the house felt like it was breathing, but Alan wasn't sure if it was healing or just preparing for another storm. The rain started just after sunset, not heavy, but steady, turning the windows into mirrors of blurred lights and long-forgotten memories. Maya stood in the dining room, towel in hand, wiping down the already clean table, not because it needed it, but because her hands didn't know how to be still. Behind her, a voice broke the silence. "He never told me why." It was Jaden. He stood barefoot, holding an old photo he had found buried in the drawer near the hallway bookshelf. Maya turned. His small fingers gripped the faded image. It was a picture of her, smiling, younger, arms around two tiny bundles in a hospital bed. "You kept this?" she asked. Jaden nodded. "I found it yesterday, under the board games. Why was it hidden?" She sat down slowly, the towel slipping from her hand. "Because I was told to forget." He sat beside her, legs swinging beneath the chair. "Is that why Daddy said you weren't safe?" Maya's breath caught. She had waited for this question for years, feared it, prayed it would never come. But here it was, raw, unfiltered, delivered by the very heart she'd been forced to walk away from. "No," she said softly. "He said that to protect himself, not you." Upstairs, Alan stood just out of sight, back against the hallway wall, listening. Again, always listening, too afraid to face it directly. "I was broken when when I lost my mom," Jaden whispered. "I thought it was forever." Maya's voice cracked. "Me too." Ryan joined them then, crawling into her lap, photo still between Jaden's fingers. "Why didn't you fight for us?" She swallowed, hard. "I did, baby. I fought. But the people with the most power don't always have the most truth." She looked toward the doorway. Her voice lifted, not loud, but firm. "Your father didn't steal you, but he didn't save me either." Alan stepped into view, the tension in his shoulders carved deep. "Don't twist it. I'm not. I'm just tired of protecting a story that never protected me." He didn't argue. He walked past her, pulled out a chair, and sat down across from them. "Tell them, Alan. If not for me, for them." The boys turned their eyes to him, eyes that looked so much like hers now that he couldn't unsee it. He ran a hand over his face. "Your mum," Maya, was grieving. She'd lost her sister just weeks before you were born. The postpartum hit hard. She wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat. I was scared and selfish. I let others convince me she wasn't fit to raise you. You didn't even talk to me," Maya added, voice quiet. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said. Jaden stared at the photo. "You took us away from her because she was sad?" "It wasn't just sadness," Alan replied. "It was silence. She stopped speaking to anyone for weeks." "Because no one listened," Maya snapped, emotion finally spilling. "Because no one asked me if I was okay. You just signed the papers, handed over custody, told the court I needed rest, and then you never called, never came. I went from holding my babies to holding court orders." The boys looked between them, too young to process it all, but not too young to feel the cracks in the foundation they'd trusted. "You said she didn't love us," Ryan whispered. Alan's head dropped. "I was wrong." The room was too quiet. The photo lay between them now, face down. "I want you both to know," Maya said. "I never left because I didn't care. I left because I was told I wasn't allowed to love you out loud." Ryan buried his face into her chest. Jaden leaned against her arm. They were still hers, every tear, every heartbeat, every memory. "Now listen, if you're watching this and thinking, 'Wow, this is heartbreaking,' or 'This is deep,' that means it moved you. So tell me something. How many stories hit you like this and you still don't click that subscribe button? Don't just watch and disappear. Subscribe. Because if stories like Maya's matter to you, then don't just witness them. Support them. There's someone out there, maybe you, who needs to be reminded that real love never stops fighting." Alan rose from his seat. "What happens now?" Maya looked up at him. "That's not for me to answer. It's for them." Jaden glanced at his brother, then at their father. "We don't want her to leave again." Ryan nodded, tight. Maya looked down at her boys, heart in her throat. "You're sure?" "We're sure," they whispered in unison. Alan looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing the jump would hurt, but staying still might kill something even deeper. "Then maybe," he said slowly, "we figure this out. Together." For the first time, Maya smiled, not politely, not carefully, but fully. The storm had passed. Rain left behind the scent of wet grass and clean beginnings. The Ellison estate, always so immaculate and cold, finally felt lived in. Inside, the kitchen buzzed softly, not with tension, but with something that hadn't existed between them for years. Warmth, laughter, pancakes. Maya stood at the stove, flipping golden batter like it was second nature. Jaden sat on the counter, legs swinging, pointing to the chocolate chips like a director on set. "More. No, not there. There. Perfect." Ryan hovered beside her, holding a plate like it was a priceless treasure. Alan leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, watching, not with skepticism, but with something closer to awe. "I thought they hated pancakes," he muttered. "They hate yours," Maya replied without looking back. "You overmix the batter. They end up like bricks." Jaden giggled. "Dad's pancakes are like tires." Ryan joined in, mimicking a car skidding on concrete. Alan rolled his eyes. "You all turning on me now?" Maya flipped a perfect circle onto Ryan's plate. "We're just finally telling the truth." It wasn't sharp, it was light, the kind of teasing that lived between people who shared a real history. And Alan couldn't help but smile, just a little. After breakfast, they gathered in the den, not because anyone suggested it, but because none of them wanted the morning to end. Maya sat, curled into the corner of the couch. Jaden rested his head on her shoulder. Ryan played on the floor with old Legos Alan hadn't realized was still in the house. The fireplace crackled, not for heat, but for comfort. Alan entered with a photo album in hand. It was dusty, the corners bent, a relic from a past he had avoided flipping through for years. He handed it to Maya. "Thought you'd want this." She opened it slowly. The first page held a photo she'd forgotten even existed. Her in a hospital bed, exhausted but glowing, 2 tiny infants in her arms, Alan standing beside her with a stunned look, like he couldn't believe any of it was real. "You kept this?" she asked softly. He nodded. Couldn't throw it away. Just couldn't look at it either. She flipped the page. More pictures. First steps. First birthdays. Moments lost and remembered all at once. Ryan climbed onto the couch and peered over her shoulder. "That's me." "That's both of you," Maya replied, pointing. "You were smaller than your dad's hand. Look at your face. Always scrunched up like you were judging the whole world." "Still does that," Maya chuckled, brushing his curls back. "Some things never change." Alan sat across from them, watching it all unfold. He hadn't realized how quiet the house had been before. It used to be pristine, silent, clean in all the ways that didn't matter. Now it was loud with laughter, messy with crumbs and crayons and echoes of love, and somehow it felt like home again. That afternoon, they took a walk, all 4 of them, through the garden Maya once planted in silence, past the tree swing Alan had installed when the boys turned 4, down to the back gate that led to the private trail no one ever used. Jaden picked flowers. Ryan ran ahead. Alan slowed beside Maya. I don't remember the last time I saw them this happy. That's not their fault. No, he admitted. It's mine. She stopped walking. He looked at her, sincere for once, no armor. You gave them something I couldn't. Not just nurture, not just love. You gave them permission to be themselves. You gave them everything money could buy, Maya replied. But you forgot the rest. He didn't defend himself, just nodded. I know. She looked away. I never wanted to be the villain in their story. You weren't. I let them go, Alan. And they still came back. That line, simple, unexpected, wrapped itself around her chest like a second chance. For the first time they stood side by side, not as enemies, not as ghosts from each other's past, but as two people finally meeting in the middle. That evening, the twins begged for a movie night. Pillows were thrown across the floor. Popcorn exploded from the bowl. Maya pretended to be furious when they dumped sprinkles into the popcorn, but smiled when they weren't looking. Alan even joined in, awkwardly at first, until Jaden leaned against his side like he used to when he was small. Maya watched from across the room. Something inside her melted. Something she'd thought was gone. They didn't just remember her, they still needed her. And for once, Alan did too. They didn't talk about the custody battle or the pain or the years lost. Not that night. That night they just were. A family, maybe not healed, but holding each other in the pieces. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again. It started with a knock at the gate. A courier. Uninvited, unannounced, but urgent. Alan opened the package without thinking. A slim manila folder, no return address. The handwriting was sharp, masculine. He opened it. Inside were photocopies, documents, court records, custody appeals, the sealed deposition from Maya's former attorney, dated 2 months after she lost the twins, and one letter, folded once. It read, "You were warned she'd come back. She always does. And she always ruins things. If you let her stay, you'll lose them." No signature, just a final line in ink. She tried to sell the kids. Did she tell you that? Alan's hand froze. He stared at the words until they blurred. A lie. It had to be. But the photocopied report attached detailed a police investigation, a referral from social services, an accusation made by an anonymous caller just days before the court decision. Accusation, not conviction. Still, it was there, real, on paper, and it changed everything. Maya was folding laundry when he found her. The twins were in the backyard, making up a pirate story about rescuing kidnapped parents. Alan dropped the folder onto the bed beside her. She glanced at it, then at him. "Where did you get that?" "Answer the question." "Those papers are 12 years old. And the part about you trying to sell the boys?" Her hand stopped. "That was a lie, from someone who wanted to destroy me. You know that." "No, I don't know that because you never told me. Because I didn't think I needed to relive that trauma to earn back my children. You should have told me. Would you have believed me if I had?" Silence. Alan stepped back. His voice was lower now. "Did you?" "What? Even once? Even for a second? Did you think about giving them up?" The pain on her face was instant, like he'd slapped her. "How dare you? Just answer me. You think I could hold their faces, kiss their skin, know every mole on their bodies and sell them? I don't know what to think anymore, Maya. Then maybe you never really knew me at all." He took a deep breath, hand trembling against the door frame. "The courts had something on you. They didn't just take them because I had more money. You think I don't know that? So what did they have, Maya? I wasn't perfect. I missed appointments. I screamed at a social worker. I broke down in front of a judge and begged. I stopped showing up because I couldn't take the way they looked at me like I was already guilty. Is that what you wanted to hear?" His silence was answer enough. She turned away. "Get out." "Maya, get out." He hesitated, then left. The slam of the door echoed louder than it should have. Outside, the boys were still playing, plastic swords in hand. Jaden paused when he saw Maya appear in the doorway, eyes red, lips tight. "What's wrong?" She shook her head. "Go get cleaned up." "But now." Jaden dropped the sword. Ryan followed, confused. They climbed the stairs slowly, quietly. Maya stood in the living room, arms folded, staring at the family photos on the wall, the ones she wasn't in. Alan came back down, regret already setting in, but not fast enough. "You don't believe me," she said without turning around. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to. It's not that simple. It never is when a black woman's name is in a system built to erase her." He flinched. "Don't make this about race." "It's always been about race, Alan. You just didn't have to notice. I gave you a second chance. You gave yourself an easier life. You're twisting everything." "No. I'm finally saying it." "So what then?" he asked, voice rising. "You want me to hand them over to you? Just pretend the last 10 years didn't happen? I want you to stop pretending you're the only one who suffered." Jaden's voice broke the standoff. "Why are you yelling?" He stood at the base of the stairs, eyes wide, Ryan half hidden behind him. "Are you mad at Mommy again?" Maya's breath caught. Alan turned, guilt crashing in. "No, buddy. No one's mad." Jaden frowned. "You said you wouldn't make her leave." Ryan clung tighter to the railing. "You promised." Alan tried to step forward. "Boys, Maya interrupted. "It's okay." She knelt, arms open. The twins rushed to her. "You said we were a family now," Ryan whispered. "We are," she whispered back. Then she stood, eyes locking with Alan's. "But sometimes family hurts more than strangers ever could." She packed in silence. No tears this time. No begging. No words at all. Just folded shirts, a worn photo, and a necklace Ryan had made out of macaroni. Alan didn't try to stop her. He watched from the hallway as she zipped her suitcase and closed the door behind her. The house fell quiet again. Too quiet. Jaden and Ryan sat at the window, knees to their chests, watching her car disappear down the drive. No one spoke, because in that moment, everything had shattered, and not even love could glue it back together. She was gone. The scent of her lavender soap still lingered in the hallway. A half-folded blanket sat on the couch where she'd tucked in Jaden just 2 nights ago. Her mug, chipped at the rim, sat untouched on the kitchen counter. But the room felt colder now. The life had been vacuumed out of it. Alan sat in the study, eyes on the wall but seeing nothing. The fire in the hearth had burned out hours ago, but he hadn't moved to relight it. He hadn't moved at all. The envelope still lay beside him, the one that started it all. He hated it, not because of what it said, but because of what it made him doubt. Upstairs, Jaden clutched his pillow so tightly the seams had started to fray. Ryan stared at the ceiling, blinking slow, hot tears that rolled into his hairline. Neither spoke. They hadn't spoken much since she left. When Alan came in to say goodnight, Ryan turned away. Jaden asked a question that made him freeze. "Why do you always make people leave?" Alan didn't have an answer. He kissed their foreheads, but they didn't kiss back. By morning, the house had turned into a museum of silence. The twins didn't come down for breakfast. The sun streamed through the windows like it didn't know anything had changed. Alan made coffee, poured it, left it on the counter untouched. He scrolled through messages, board members, investors. A reminder from his assistant about a press interview. He deleted them all. He walked outside barefoot, suit still on from yesterday, tie loose. The flower bed Maya once cared for looked like it was wilting. He knelt, touched the soil. His fingers sunk into it, cold and soft. He remembered watching her one evening, years ago, kneeling here just like this, humming to herself, wiping tears from her face with dirt-stained hands. He hadn't asked her why, he hadn't wanted to know, but now he'd give anything to understand what she'd buried beneath these flowers. Later that afternoon, Ryan came into the living room holding the macaroni necklace Maya had left behind. He didn't say a word, just dropped it into Alan's lap and walked out. Alan stared at it for a long time. A ridiculous thing, childish, fragile, ugly in any other context. But right now, it felt like the most honest thing in the house. That night he opened his laptop, not to work. He searched Maya's name, found nothing, no updated records, no social media. Then, in the back corner of a bookmarked file folder, he found it, an old contact card. He clicked call. It rang once, then again, then voicemail. He hung up before the tone. He tried again. Still no answer. He stared at the screen like it might explain what to do next. Then Jaden appeared in the doorway. "If you love her, you should go." Alan looked up. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is," Jaden replied. "You just make it complicated because you're scared." "I'm scared because I hurt her." "Then say sorry better." Alan's breath hitched. "How do you say sorry for stealing a mother from her sons?" Jaden didn't hesitate. "You bring her back." Then he left. 2 hours later, Alan was in his car. No driver, no suit jacket. Just him, behind the wheel, headlights cutting through the mist as he drove through Broadway's back streets toward the address he hadn't visited in years, Maya's old neighborhood. He didn't know if she still lived there. He didn't know if she'd open the door. But for once, he wasn't thinking about optics or pride or how it might look. He was just thinking about her. The building looked the same. Peeling paint, faded brick, a single light flickering above the entrance. He knocked once. No answer. Again. Still nothing. Then, footsteps. The door opened slowly. It wasn't Maya. It was an older woman, wrinkled, familiar, her aunt. She stared at him like he was a ghost. "You've got some nerve." "Is she here?" "Why should I tell you?" "Because I need to tell her the truth, the whole truth, and I need her to hear it from me." The woman crossed her arms. "You told the world she wasn't fit. You stood in courtrooms and let them call her unstable. You watched them erase her and didn't blink." "I know. So why now?" He swallowed. "Because now I'm the one who's not fit. Not to raise them alone, not to lie to them anymore. They know and they love her, and they're broken without her." She stared at him, then stepped aside. "She's not here, but I'll tell her you came." "Please, just tell her I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a second chance to make it right. For them. And for you." His voice cracked. "For all of us." Back at the estate, Ryan was waiting at the top of the stairs, face pressed to the window, watching the drive. He waited for headlights, for a shadow behind the glass. But the night stayed still. 3 days passed. The Ellison estate was quieter than ever. The boys barely spoke. Meals were left half-eaten. Laughter hadn't returned. Alan moved through the halls like a man haunted by a ghost that hadn't died, just walked out the front door. On the 4th morning, he heard footsteps outside his office. Not the boys, not the staff. Lighter, slower. He opened the door, and there they were, Jaden and Ryan, both dressed, bags packed, backpacks slung over their shoulders. "Where are you going?" he asked. Jaden's voice didn't waver. "To find Mommy." Ryan nodded, eyes fierce. "We're not waiting anymore." Alan knelt slowly, eye level with them. "You don't have to. I already went." They looked up. Hope flickered. "Did she answer?" Jaden asked. "No," Alan replied, "but I left her the truth." "Will she come back?" Ryan whispered. Alan pulled them into his arms. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but if she does, it'll be because she chooses to." That night, it rained again. Gentle, steady. Jaden and Ryan had fallen asleep on the couch in the den, both curled under a blanket Maya had stitched months ago. One of her soft, humming lullabies still echoed in their heads as if she were there. Alan sat in the armchair across the room, fire flickering behind him, heart heavier than any business deal he'd ever faced. Then the front door creaked open, soft, careful, like someone unsure they were still welcome. He rose slowly, heart slamming. Maya stepped inside, her umbrella dripping onto the floor, eyes scanning the room like she was looking for a memory that might have disappeared. Their eyes met. No one spoke. Not yet. She looked thinner, paler, like she hadn't slept. He looked different too, tired in the eyes, softer around the edges. "You came back," he said quietly. "I didn't come to fight. I didn't invite you to." She set the umbrella aside. Her shoes squeaked against the floor. "Your aunt gave me the message," she said. "I didn't know if I believed it. I didn't know if you'd hear it." "I heard it." Silence again. Then, "Where are the boys?" she asked. He motioned toward the den. She walked slowly, as if each step were a question. And when she turned the corner, her breath caught. Jaden was fast asleep, one hand hanging off the couch. Ryan clutched a small stuffed tiger, legs tangled in the blanket. Maya knelt beside them, brushing curls off their faces. Ryan stirred. His eyes fluttered open. When he saw her, he didn't scream. He didn't smile. He just whispered, "I knew you'd come back." She pulled him close. Jaden woke next, and without a word, he scooted into her lap, arms locking around her waist, like he had never let go in the first place. Alan stood in the doorway. Maya looked up. "I don't know what happens now," she said. "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I want them to have both of us, not in pieces, not with guilt. Then we'll figure it out, all of us." "Do you mean it this time?" He nodded. "I've never meant anything more." Morning came slowly. The sky was clear. The estate glowed gold in the light. Maya made breakfast, real pancakes, not from a box, not overmixed. Jaden helped with the syrup. Ryan made a mess with the butter. Alan brewed the coffee and didn't even burn it this time. They sat together, the first real family meal they'd had in years. No anger, no secrets, just warmth, peace, healing. Later that day, Alan walked out to the garden. The flowers were starting to bloom again. Maya joined him, kneeling beside him as he cleared out the dead leaves. "You ever think we'd get here?" she asked. "No," he admitted, "but I'm glad we did." "Me too." He reached into his pocket, held out something, the macaroni necklace. "You forgot this." She laughed, tears sparkling. "No, I left it. I wanted you to feel something." "I did." She took it from him gently and placed it around his neck. "It suits you," she teased. "I'm never taking it off." "Liar. Only a little." "And if you're still watching, if you made it all the way here, let me ask you something. You cried a little, didn't you? Or maybe just smiled in that way you only do when a story hits close to home. So if this meant anything to you, don't just walk away. Subscribe. Because stories like this aren't written to be watched in silence. They're written to be remembered. And if you felt something, you owe it to the next viewer to help keep this story alive. So click that button. You know where it is. And thank you for being part of this one. Back inside the house, the twins were drawing on the floor, crayons scattered everywhere. One picture was of Maya holding their hands. The other was the four of them, no labels, no titles, just a family, messy, smiling, whole. Alan looked at her. "So, are you staying?" Maya smiled. "I never really left."